Hey everybody, Joe Amaral here, and just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me today. And if you've ever listened to me in the past, then I usually talk about, some kind of a Bible story or giving you the background behind the culture of the Bible, or maybe talking about one of my tours to Israel, or talking about what we're doing in Liberia. And today, this is it's a special report as we talk about what's going on in Israel right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a friend on of mine. His name is Chris Atkins. You may or may not know that name, but I can honestly say this: if there was no Chris Atkins, there would be no Joe Amaral. He helped produce my TV show for 10 years. We've worked on projects together, and he's a dear friend. And I'm just going to bring him into the room right now, and he's going to share with us his experience of being in in Israel just on the day that the war broke out. So here he is, Chris. Thanks so much, man, for taking some time to talk to me today on this really, really bizarre and what's the word? Like we've never seen anything like this before in Israel. You were in Israel the day Hamas started the war. What in the world was that like, dude?
Well, I mean, it was really bizarre. You know, we had a scheduled flight. We had just been there for 10 days filming for a show called The Prophetic Connection. And so we were planning, our flight was scheduled to leave on
So
Saturday.
that was the
So it
day.
wasn't like that was the day. Yeah.
Wow.
So we were leaving that morning, flying out on Air Canada, which it's like around a noon flight,
Mm.
which we have done, I've done it how many times with you
Yeah. Yeah.
and four times this year already. So, to be honest with you, it seemed like a normal day. I got up around 6 or so, was having my shower, getting ready, making sure that all my luggage was packed. And I started to notice that the red alert app that I have on my phone, which even as we're talking right now, is going like crazy. You
Mm.
can see these are all rockets that are coming in right
Every
now. And
time,
actually,
yeah.
yeah, it's just constant. And actually, I see that as we're talking, the rockets are going are heading towards Mevaseret and Abu Ghosh,
Oh,
these
Jerusalem. Yeah.
places.
Mm.
Yeah, just right outside Jerusalem. But I saw the red alerts happening for Nativ Hasara, Sderot, and places like that, Kiryat Gat, and I wasn't completely surprised because they do it all the time, right?
Right.
So I saw, oh, okay, I haven't seen this alarm go off for a little while, and here it is going off. But I thought, okay, it happens all the time. The Iron Dome, they're used to it. It's not up here.
Yeah.
Went down for breakfast, told the people I was traveling with that, oh, I'm getting red alerts. And we're like, oh, well, we're
Were you
not
in
hearing
Jerusalem,
anything.
Chris, or Tel Aviv?
Yeah, we're in Jerusalem.
Okay.
We're in Jerusalem. So we packed up, we left, we started driving. Now the streets were empty, which is not uncommon because it's Shabbat. It's also the end of Yom Kippur. It's Simchat
Oh,
Torah.
Sukkot.
So
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yep. Not surprised that the streets were empty. We're heading down the highway. You stop at that one yellow gas station
Yeah.
to fill up. And I think it was at the yellow gas station when I started to notice, okay, things are a little different because I noticed the people around us seemed off. And there
Mm.
was a car beside us with two young Israeli soldiers who were seemed frantic on their phones. And then the third guy joined them, jumped in the car, and they peeled out of there. And
Yeah.
then I started noticing as we continued toward Tel Aviv that the rockets, the frequency on the app. So we weren't seeing Iron Dome, we weren't hearing explosions, we
Hmm.
weren't doing any of that, but the alert was going on. And then I started realizing that the alert was happening in communities that we were about to pass through, which was very strange.
Mm.
Um, but it still was just like, okay, you know, this happens a lot. Iron Dome, no idea what was happening down at the Gaza
Oh,
fence,
yeah.
and communities around there. We get there, we drop the car off, and this was kind of surprising. When you look back, you realize, like, okay, that was a clue. Because when we pulled the car up, the guy just told us, "You're good, go. You're good. Like, do you want to check the car? Oh, just go." Like, oh, okay, all right.
That
And we
doesn't
got into
happen.
the air.
Yeah.
No, No, and then it really started to hit, something was off when we got inside the airport. And as you go into Ben Gurion Airport, you have to go through a security
Hmm.
screening before you check your luggage in. And so we're waiting in line, and as we're waiting in line, all of a sudden, you heard. I mean, there's probably 700-800 people in that giant hall,
Okay.
and all of a sudden you heard kind of this murmuring over to my right. You hear this crowd, and then you see people moving quickly, and then like almost starting to run. And you're like, what's going on? And then the security are yelling first in Hebrew and then in English, leave your luggage, go to the shelter now, go. And they're just,
Whoa.
and so then you start to hear some people crying, some people, it's amped up. And that's when, to me, it was like, this is something different. I haven't experienced
What
this
time is
before.
this, Chris, now for you?
That would have been 8:30-ish, 8:30 a.m.
Oh, like 2 hours after it started.
2 hours after it started. Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
exactly. Yeah. And so we all ran. The shelters were full, so they took us into further. It was kind of funny, a lot of those places in the airport, you're not allowed to go, and they were packing us in there, right? So we ended up being in the spot where they have the big X-ray machine for the extra special security checks, and we're standing back where you're not, as a civilian, you're not allowed to go,
Yeah.
but they just
Yeah.
packed us in. And then, no explosions that we heard. We were there for about 20 minutes, and then they said, okay, you can go. And we had to go find our luggage, because you just left your luggage where it was, which was like, that was to me
That's
like,
so
oh, wow.
counter to what you expect at Ben Gurion, because they're like, never leave your bags. Like they'll freak
Yeah.
out at you. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we went out, found our bags, got back in line, went through security. And I mean, after that, things seemed pretty normal, because we checked through security, got down, had a cappuccino, um, got on
Wow.
our flight. Um, yeah, got our flight on time, but then we sat on the tarmac for about 2 hours.
Mm.
And the pilot kept coming on and apologizing, saying he was saying they uh, that they were having something up with their new navigation system, that they're having to change their route. They're having to change their route through Europe, and
Hmm.
that they would be that. So it's just taking time loading the system. So at the time, it's like, oh, that's kind of dumb. You should be
Yeah.
prepared, but whatever. And then it wasn't until we were up in the air, after we'd been in the air for a little while, and when we started getting, word what was happening on the ground, that's when it clicked. I think they were most likely waiting for the IDF to clear the airspace,
The
or at
airspace.
least to
Yeah.
fall in the rocket fire for us to take off. And
Oh,
if we weren't the last flight out, we were one of the very last flights out before they shut Ben Gurion down. So we left
wow.
2 hours later. And I still, none of us really knew what was going on until I thought, well, I'm an Aeroplan member, and now Air Canada has this thing where you can text for free if you're an
Right.
Aeroplan member on the flight.
Yeah.
And that's when I thought, oh, I'm late. I should tell my wife that I'm running behind.
Sure.
So I logged in. So I logged in to send her a text message, and then all of a sudden I'm getting all these messages from people saying, "Are you safe? I hope you're not in Israel right now. What's going on? Are you seeing anything?" I'm like, "What?" I
What?
mean, just it's the normal rockets.
Yeah.
And so that's when I texted my friend Sherry. She was messaging me, and she's like, "Did you see anything? Are there explosions around you?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then she
Yeah.
told me what was happening. So I bought the internet, that you can buy the internet for
Sure.
the flight. So I started checking the news, and that's when we realized it. And it was just the most sickening feeling, realizing that all of, we just made it out, but leaving all of our friends behind, and, and
Mhm.
just hearing what was happening in Sederot, which I've been to Sederot probably 8 or 9 times. I know that city. I
Well,
know
do you
that place.
remember we went down there years ago after one of the
Yes.
incursions, and there was that guy who would go through the fields and collect all the Katusha rockets and melt them down and turn them into roses to sell them to
Yeah.
raise money to build bomb shelters for children. I
Yeah.
mean,
Lots
I
of
mean,
roses. Yeah.
Gaza was right there. Like we're not casual
Yeah.
observers. Like we've been there, and especially you've been there like a lot.
Yeah, yeah. If you go to my YouTube channel, you can see a video when I was at Nativ Hasara, and I was right at the walls, and I talked
Right.
with my friend who's a general, and another retired general who she's explained to me the situation. And this is from 2019, right? So not all that long ago.
Yeah.
And even a flight earlier this year, I was standing in line for the washroom talking with this woman who's from Nativ Hasara, and she's telling me, you could buy a really nice house really cheap there, and that she has her family with little kids, and she's like, oh yeah, we're just kind of used to the alarms and stuff, but now knowing that they could very likely be one of those families that have been kidnapped by Hamas.
Kidnapped and burned in their homes.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
like we're not going to speak of the horrors because
no,
I don't want to get flagged and have this conversation taken down for people who want to
yeah,
see what's going on. There's lots of social media videos about what's
yeah,
happening. Unfortunately, what I wanted to talk about with you a little bit, Chris, is I mean, between the two of us, we have over 100 trips,
yeah, that's
right?
right.
Like I used to be the Israel guy with 48 trips. Now you've totally creamed me. Are you 60 something now?
It's over 60. It might even be close to 70. I'm not sure. I stopped counting.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
so
it's up.
well over 100 between the two of us, and we've observed what life is like in Israel between Israelis and Palestinians, from the West Bank who have work visas and they come in. A lot of the hotels that you and I have stayed at in Jerusalem, the majority of them
Yeah,
were Palestinians, Arabs from the West Bank,
yeah,
and just the interaction between people is just totally normal, like just people living life together, right?
yeah. For the most part, it's people, and that's it. Whether they're Jewish or Arab or Palestinian, Christian, secular, whatever, right? It's
Hmm.
for the most part, most of your encounters and your actions with Israelis are people interacting with people. Actually, just in May, uh, the son of our good friend Dan Bahat, his son Amnon, he took me and my youngest daughter Faith. He took us into Judea and Samaria, what some people call the West Bank.
Yeah.
He took us out there. We went and we met and visited with some Arab villagers who live in a cave. And we actually went into their cave. They're goat herders, and
Yeah.
we had an amazing time. They cooked all this food for us. They served us, and here we are living in. They live in a cave. They're like 30 minutes from one of the most amazing modern shopping centers in the world, and they live in a cave. And
And they choose
these
to.
people, yeah, yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
here we are with our Israeli Jewish friend Amnon, who speaks fluent Arabic, and we're visiting with this family, and we couldn't have had a better time. And what an experience to visit with people who are still living in caves in the desert, right?
Unbelievable.
Then yeah, we drove into a Bedouin community, and we got some ice cream, and then we went into an Arab Palestinian village in Judea and Samaria. We went in there, and this nice Palestinian man invited us into his shop for kanafi, a really delicious treat, and then at the end of it, he served us coffee, and we ate this kanafi, and he wouldn't even take money. He didn't charge us. He just
No.
so I mean, there's amazing people on both sides of that border, right?
And that's the
It's
Israel
just
that you and
so.
I know, right, Chris?
Yes, absolutely, yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
to see
So
what's happening on the ground and to see the videos coming back and to hear, such hatred coming from one side against the other, it's so
yeah,
jarring because that's not the experience that you and I have had. So you had this wonderful time with this family in the cave. I'll never forget. I won't mention names. We were in Tel Aviv, and the nice restaurant we always go to in Tel Aviv, right on Gordon's
oh
Beach
yes,
there. I'm sitting there with
yeah,
my Israeli friend, Jewish, Hebrew speaking, and we're having a coffee, whatever, having a nice time. And this guy starts to walk over, and he I can tell he's Arab, Palestinian, however he identifies.
yeah,
And the Arab guy yells to my Jewish friend. He goes, "Oh, thanks for not stealing our land." Right? And then my Jewish friend says, "Oh, thanks for not blowing up." And I'm like going, I don't know whether I should laugh or not, what's going on. And
yeah,
then they embrace and they start hugging, and they're laughing and they're taking little digs at each other. And they looked at
yeah,
me and they said, "This is life in Israel." And I
yeah,
went, that was early on in my travels to the country, so I didn't know what to expect. And so
yeah.
it's really, really heart-wrenching to see what's happening now and the absolute horror of what families are experiencing, especially around, the kibbutzes and communities in Gaza, near Gaza.
Well, the death toll is so high now that, you and I know people that are directly affected by all of this. In fact, a good friend of mine informed me last night that some of his family is missing.
Oh no.
Um, so I mean, I have no words, right? And then other friends of ours, who you and I know and are very well connected to, I'm
Hmm.
hearing from them that all of his sons are being activated for reserve duty, and his
Yeah.
grandson. Well, and they're all heading either into Gaza or they're enforcing the border with Lebanon, right? So, and you and I were
Yeah.
we know it's like. You and I were there at the Israeli government's request in 2006 at the end of the Hezbollah war.
That's right.
And to see how disrupted the lives of the average Israelis, of our friends, were, businesses lost,
That's
family
right. Yeah.
members
Yeah.
lost, devastation, destruction. We're in the hotels. Remember, we were in Haifa and we were the only people in that entire hotel.
Yeah. The
Like,
traffic was pretty good in Haifa that day.
yeah, yeah. And then you and I got to go out with the IDF. We were right on the northern border, and we were with that tank battalion,
Yeah. The
and so we've
Merkava
had some.
tanks. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that was 2006. That's what, 13, 14 years ago
Yeah.
since
It's
you
still
and I
going
had that
on.
experience, and it's been in a sense, a lifetime since Israel has seen this kind of action, and even that wasn't anywhere close to what's happening right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, the timing of the attack is very, suspicious because not only was it a Shabbat when they knew people would be a little more relaxed, not only was it at the end of the high holiday season, they've come through, um, you know, trumpets and atonement and tabernacles, and everybody's kind of just partying and having a good time. But it also came on the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War in 1973, so almost 50 years to the week where they
To
caught
the day.
Israel. Was it to the
Yeah,
day?
I
Yeah, I
believe
mean
so.
where they caught Israel off, off guard, and to see that happen again, you're talking about families whose children, were going back to the army. I was speaking with a friend there yesterday, and she was in tears. She's all my friends, like we just have to say goodbye to our 20-year-olds or 21-year-olds, and some of them are going knowing that they could die, but they're going anyways, and they're proud to go and they're happy to go. And she said it's supposed to be Simchat Torah, the day of rejoicing. The Torah cycle
Yeah,
starts again. We're so thrilled. And she said there's no joy in Jerusalem today. Our children are going out to die. And so, I mean, we can talk a lot about the why this happened and who's to blame, but that's for uh,
that's
smarter
later.
people than you and I to chime in on. Um, we both know we have a mutual friend in Wayne Hillsden, Pastor Wayne Hillsden, who's from Toronto but has been 40 years in Jerusalem, and he started an organization called Firm, right? Fellowship of
Yes.
Israel Related Ministries, and now Michael Mistretta is giving leadership to that. And I've been in touch, with both of them. I'm sure you've been in touch with lots of your friends. And Michael posted something on behalf of Firm of like, how do we as Christians, like, how can we pray for what's going on over there? Because there's more than enough blame to go around. But like, how do we pray? Like as Christians, when we see the horror and just the evil that's taking place, I'm like, God, how do I pray for people? How do I pray for the situation? Because in my natural man, I'm like, God, I don't know that I can pray for this. And I just wanted to share a little um, a picture of something that he posted. And I'm hoping that anybody who's um, in on this podcast, if you're just listening to it, you can't see this, but go onto the YouTube channel and you'll see the video of this. And this is something that they put up on how we as Christians can pray, and I'm just going to give you the highlights here, and then we're just going to leave this with people. So if you're watching this screenshot, and just kind of tuck this away. He says, pray for peace over Israel and for the preservation of life. And I love this, both for Jew and Arab alike. Pray for wisdom for our leaders and for our IDF as they prepare a response to the surprise attack. Pray for the protection of friends and family. Pray for those who have been taken hostage. As a father, both of us as dads, I don't know how I would pray through that. Pray that the barrage of rockets would stop. pray for those in the border communities around Gaza. Pray that hatred and incitement would cease, and the power of God's love would minister to hearts and minds across Israel and Gaza. I love the spirit behind this prayer. Pray that the body of believers would find opportunities, to pray with those and provide hope for those who are suffering. And this one, pray that God would use us, he's talking about believers, to shine his light in the midst of our dark situation. And so, while we can't provide any answers, we can't resolve this issue, especially not from where we're sitting, but we can pray. And some people say, oh, well, all we can do is pray. Well, prayer is powerful. And if we don't believe that prayer can do anything, then I don't know what we're doing serving God. So I just wanted to bring you on, Chris, to share your experience of being there and being on one of the last flights out of the country, and just to share that, like, what we're seeing, it's not the normal way things are. Palestinians and Israelis generally tend to coexist, and just, I've talked to, and I'm sure you have, to Arabs living in Israel. And I said, what's it like to live here? They're like, what are you talking about? It's fantastic. I have my iPhone, I go to work, I have my car, I have my apartment. And so we just want to pray all those things that were on that list, and also for things to normalize, that this would be put to bed, it would be put to rest, it would be handled properly. And that something like this, God, don't let it ever happen again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just sickening what's happening over there, and you and I know from having been there and having visited both sides and having friends on both sides, and we know that overall, there's good people on both sides, but it's they're for the Palestinians with Hamas as their leadership, a lot of those people are held hostage by their own government, and so we don't
100%.
hate the people. We at the end of the day, God is the one who's going to sort it all out. We can only do what we can do. But certainly we want to stand with Israel and let the people of Israel know that we love them and that we care for them. And, in whatever fashion we can, we stand behind them. And even if it's just emotional and spiritual support, that's what we can do. But it is a tragedy, and we'll keep praying for peace in the land of Israel.
Amen. Perfectly said, Chris. Thanks for talking to us today. Okay.
Thank you, Joe, and looking forward to catching up with you again soon.
Okay.